Since the Philadelphia Eagles took down the Kansas City Chiefs in dominating fashion in New Orleans, and the party continues. Welcome to NFL Live. We got Mina Kimes, Ryan Clark, and Dan Graziano there. Kevin Nagani in studio here. Did I mention there's a party for the second time in 7 years? Over 1 million fans were on Broad Street chanting E-A-G-L-E-S as Philly celebrated another Super Bowl. For guys like Saquon Barkley and A.J. Brown and Super Bowl MVP Jalen Hurts, it was their first parade experience.
You had this screensaver on your cell phone that was locked for 2 years with showing the Kansas City Chiefs celebrating Super Bowl 57. Have you changed that screensaver?
No, I have not. You're at one place and you think that's where you want to be and retire there, and then life happens, and I came here, and now I couldn't imagine playing anywhere else.
You got the Chris Long.
I'm Mr. Anonymous.
How'd that go down?
I just hit him up. I was gonna hit him up 2 years ago when we lost, but I got another chance. So
How's it feeling today, man?
oh no, it's crazy, crazy. I can feel the aura.
I told these guys in December, we had 3 out of the last 4 at home. And we were practicing outside every day, practicing at the stadium every other couple days. And I said, hey, we're going to have to go to the Super Bowl, and to win that Super Bowl, we're going to have to go out in Lincoln Financial in front of the best fans in the world, all right, and win some games. And we did exactly that.
You know, I told myself that when I got drafted, that I wouldn't come to the Rocky Steps until I won a championship. And now we're here.
They said I was a diva. They said all I care about was stats. If you're going to get all those things wrong about me, but one thing you can get right, I'm a champion.
Winning my second 2-time Super Bowl. 2-time. But where my other one at? Put the other one right here. I bleed for this city. Go Eagles.
Howie Roseman saying he bleeds for this city because he took a beer can to the face, and you see the beer can on the top of his forehead with some blood. So, oh my goodness, you can't make it up in Philadelphia. So after the dust settles and everybody sobers up, this Eagles team, they've got a ton of decisions to make, especially Howie Roseman. And Graz, when you look at this team, how much room do they have to work with, especially now dealing with a lot of big question marks?
Yeah, when that cut on Howie Roseman's forehead heals, he's going to have to figure out who on the defensive side of the ball the Eagles can and can't keep. Cap space-wise, they're kind of middle of the pack. We don't even know what the cap is yet, but relative to other teams, kind of middle of the pack is where they should land. But 3 key free agents on the defensive side of the ball, Josh Sweat, Milton Williams, and Zach Bond, all 3 of whom were instrumental in that Super Bowl victory and all year long. Add in Mekhi Becton on the offensive line, and they have some decisions to make about who to keep. It's not really the cap space as much as the way their cash payments for other big contracts start to get more expensive in the next couple of years. Guys like Jalen Hurts, Devontae Smith have their contracts built till they'll be making more salary, more cash over the next couple of years. And then you have the extensions possibly looming for guys like, Jordan Davis and Nakobe Dean and Nolan Smith and Jalen Carter over the next couple of years. So the Eagles have to budget out over the next 3 or 4 years their whole salary cap and cash plan and figure out who can stay and who can't.
Man, whatever that budget is, Zach Bond better be at the top of it. Listen, this is a dude that not a lot was expected of coming into this season. And Kevin, you know this, being an Eagles fan, he was an absolute stud and a star from week 1 in Brazil versus Green Bay. He's shown position versatility. He's shown that he could be the off linebacker. He could be the green dot. And he's an absolute turnover machine, being an all-pro this year in 2024. To me, Zach Bond is a centerpiece of what this defense is. And obviously you want to keep Sweat. Obviously you want to keep Milton Williams. But there's some things in the draft that may help you with that. You don't just pick up guys like Zach Bond off the street unless you're picking up Zach Bond off the street.
Yeah, I completely agree, Ryan. And while I don't like to make draft predictions, I will make one now. Whenever the Eagles pick first, whether it's at the end of the first or they trade up or trade down, They're going to take a defensive lineman, and we're all going to go, how did the Philadelphia Eagles get that guy? How did Howie Roseman do it again? Because I do think that's what's going to happen. RC, you alluded to this. This draft class, in terms of defensive linemen, is stacked. I mean, I'm just starting to study them now. There are so many defensive tackles that should go in the first round. There's great edges, too. And the Eagles have such a proven track record when it comes to finding both offensive and defensive linemen. Whereas a Zach Bond, I find it very hard to believe you're going to get that kind of skill set and intelligence, frankly, from a rookie linebacker. So that is the position I would focus on keeping, and I would draft the defensive line.
And keep in mind, if you look at the track record for the Eagles, they obviously target defensive linemen and offensive linemen in the draft. They do not target linebackers. They do not put a premium, so they hit one out of the park with Zach Bond right there. Now, the Eagles' dominating run has put a handful of teams on notice, especially within the NFC East, as Pennsylvania native and Cowboys star Micah Parsons said this about his team entering the offseason. Listen to this. Obviously, talent is here, but we've just got to finish and go be aggressive the same way they did. I don't want to sit back and just watch other people build, and we stay the same. So we definitely need some call to action. Now, the Cowboys haven't made big offseason splashes recently. Look at this. This surprised me. Their biggest free agent signing over the last 5 seasons, guys, was Gerald McCoy's 3-year, $18 million deal in 2020. Otherwise, their largest deals were for 1 year, worth less than $5 million. The biggest trade they've made in that span was for wide receiver Brandon Cooks, who has averaged 36 receiving yards per game in his 2 seasons with the team. So, with all of that, Mina, what should be the Cowboys' biggest priority in the offseason?
Yeah, you know, in the past, the Cowboys' approach has just been to pay their own, but pay them too late. I would not make that mistake with Micah Parsons. First, you got to restructure Dak Prescott's contract. That obviously $90 million cap hit isn't going to stick around. And then with that flexibility you gain, you sign Micah Parsons to the biggest deal that any edge rusher has ever signed. Now, I do think that, to his point, they need to be active in finding a receiver. Obviously, they need to get better running the football and stopping the run. I imagine that'll be a priority in the draft. But priority number 1 is number 11, who is one of the 3 best defensive players in the NFL, in my estimation.
Yeah, and a lot of people, Mina, would tell you that the Eagles are one of the teams that really knows how to press the advantage on going to their star players early for contract extensions. And obviously the Cowboys have not done that. So Micah Parsons, getting him under contract long-term is a priority. In terms of their own free agents to re-sign, nothing gigantic. Jordan Lewis, the cornerback, Oso Digizua, a couple of guys that they might look to re-sign. But, of course, they're on defense, and they have a new defensive coordinator, so we'll see how that all shakes out. But the Cowboys, in terms of free agency, I think the sense I get is that they've heard what people have said, that they probably believe there's a happy medium somewhere between going nuts in free agency, which they don't believe is the right way to build a roster, and doing pretty much nothing, which is what they did last year. So I do think you'll see them go out, maybe add to the offensive and defensive lines, and definitely add another wide receiver.
Some advice, too. You can't say in the offseason we're all in. Because you said that last year. You send a message to the entire fan base.
Say whatever you want.
And then you're not all in. So that's one thing. Don't set up the fan base by, hey, we're all in. You get everybody excited, and then you don't do anything of relevance.
Yeah, I think the big thing is, you know, we talked about being nuts. Being nuts or going nuts would be not paying Micah Parsons first, not getting that deal done. I agree with Mina wholeheartedly. He's not only the leader on the field, but off the field, he's a guy that's championed the Dallas Cowboys every opportunity he gets a chance to speak. And then I think you go out and you try to talk to John Lynch about acquiring Deebo Samuel, talking to him, will you be in shape? What do you want to do? How do you want to fit into this offense? And now that's a guy that can play running back, a guy that can play receiver, somebody that can be a number 2 and a chess piece off of CeeDee Lamb. And then when you get into the draft, this gives you flexibility of whether you want to pick someone that helps you run the football or someone that helps you stop the run. For years, Mina and I, Marcus, Dan, we've talked about the fact that they can't stop the run. Not built well at linebacker, not built well in the middle of that defense from a defensive tackle perspective, even though you addressed it a couple of years ago in the draft. So if you go get Deebo Samuel, now you build your offense around Dak, and CeeDee Lamb, and maybe you can find a way to stop the run in the middle of the field defensively early in the draft.
Another conversation, too, in this division. It's always been the Cowboys and somebody else, right? Especially the last decade. Now it's the Eagles and Commanders and the Cowboys. So keep that in mind on how that develops here in the offseason leading into what they plan on doing in 2025. All right, we're just getting started. Here's NFL Live continues the...
Well, folks, if there's one thing we all know around here, it's that football ain't just a game. It's a way of life. And Jalen Hurts, that boy's got it running through his veins. At a Valentine's Day celebration that had the whole city of Philly buzzing, Hurts took the stage like a true leader, soaking in the love from fans who've watched him fight tooth and nail to bring home that Lombardi trophy. Y'all ever heard someone call a quarterback the most important player at the most important position? Well, ain't no doubt that fits Hurts like a glove. He kicked things off with a hearty Philly, Philly, tipping his hat to the fellas that made this championship run possible, his receivers, his offense, and the rock-solid defense that backed him up. 'Cause let's be real, defense wins championships, and Hurts knows better than anyone that no man wins alone, and he didn't forget the ones who believed in him first. Hurts gave a heartfelt nod to his coaches and leadership, thanking them for taking a chance on him. He even called out the team's owner, saying he never once doubted the faith that was placed in him. But the most powerful moment, that was when Hurts shared a promise he made to himself years ago. I told myself when I got drafted that I wouldn't come to the Rocky Steps until I won a championship. Now we're here. And let me tell y'all, the crowd went wild. While Hurts stood tall under those bright stadium lights, his fiancée, Bri Burrows, was right there in the crowd, watching with pride. Ain't nothing better than sharing your biggest moments with the ones who've stood by you since day one. Then came the message every NFL fan ought to take to heart. Hurts didn't just talk about winning, he talked about grit, about picking yourself up when you get knocked down. You can't lose if you don't quit, and in Philly, we don't quit. That's a mindset built for champions, one that separates the good from the great. And just when you thought he was done, he hit us with one final line, the kind that makes your heart beat a little faster. The next pursuit begins. Go Birds. That right there? That's the fire of a man who ain't satisfied with just one ring. And that's what makes this game of American football so special. There's always another mountain to climb, another fight to win. So here's the real question, folks. If Hurts and the Eagles just proved they've got what it takes, who's got the guts to stop them next season? Y'all let me know, 'cause this ride's just getting started. Write something.